Getting older is kind of weird. You don't really wake up and say, wow, I'm old now. And even though birthdays come and go, you kind of always just feel like yourself. Incrementally changing day by day, learning a bit more. So in the macro, yes, you now is different from you 5 years ago. But in the micro, you always just feel like you. Not trying to get too deep when you clicked on a video about Pokemon, but I say all this to lead into that nothing really makes me feel as old as a gamer as the Pokemon franchise. I'm gonna try and make this the least like an old man yells at cloud video and just kind of explain where my thoughts are with all of this. So first of all, some backstory on the series, like very quickly, like TGP's way too fast history of Pokemon. And yeah, we'll elaborate, that's what the video is for. GameFreak released the first Pokemon games back in 1996 for the OG Game Boy. In the game, you played as a young child that was sent across the land to document a bunch of fictional monsters that roamed it. On your journey, you would catch the beasts and train them to beat the hell out of other beasts until they passed out or you caught them too. You'd earn a bunch of fancy merit badges until you earned the right to challenge the champion in a battle where you would obviously save the game beforehand so that when you inevitably lost, you could just retry until your fingers bled. The series also spawned a really successful anime, and the merchandising is crazy to this day. In this video, we're sticking to the mainline titles, but there are plenty of spin-offs. Plenty. Most notably Pokemon Go, which still feels like a fever dream, but turns out there's still a very active player base. General housekeeping. If you're a fan of the newer Pokemon games over the old ones, that's great. Feel free to tell us all of your experiences and opinions in the comments. We only ask that you keep it civil and don't attack anyone. Not stating that I think the series direction has been bad because it didn't do what I wanted it to. We're just going over some observations with a franchise I grew up loving. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Pokemon didn't age with us, and I really wish it had. There have been plenty of series that I played as a kid that aged right alongside me, that have morphed to become more of a mature version of itself that I could continue to enjoy. I think the most prime example is God of War. When the original God of War trilogy released, the developers were young and brash, and they had a Kratos that was the same. He was marred by tragedy, of course, maybe like the most tragedy. I don't know if you can top being made to murder your wife and child and then having their ashes be bound to your skin for the rest of eternity. But Kratos was an angry dude who did angry things. Lots and lots and lots of angry things. And then when 2018 rolled around, we got an older Kratos, a father once more, but older and wiser. He had grown, just like we had. Pokemon, in my opinion, never has. I vividly remember my first Pokemon game. I didn't have a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color, but I did get a Game Boy Advance. It was like this translucent purple color, and it was the OG GBA 2. So it took double A's and it had zero backlight. But that didn't matter. I got my hands on Pokemon Ruby. I picked Ruby the same way I picked all Pokemon games. Which dude on the box looked cooler? And I played that thing nonstop. I played it with every starter. I filled up the Pokédex. I remember I would start a new game so often I just started naming my dude Terry because it was one of the preset options when you started it up. And I had no time to type my name in. We had some Pokemon to enslave. Catch. I then had a friend let me borrow Fire Red, and I got to experience the OG in all of its updated glory. And I love that too. And when I finally got a DS for Christmas, you know all I wanted was DP. Pause. Diamond and Pearl. Anyways, actually I wanted a DS so badly I was like, honestly, I don't need any games at all. And that claim was taken seriously. So my DS was used for like a month as a PictoChat machine and not much else. But once I got those games, I went in. And while it didn't hit the same as the older games for me, I still loved it. Also, does anyone remember how your badges would get like dirty and you'd have to like polish them with a stylus? Peak gameplay. And that carried through Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Black and White 1 and 2. But by the time I got my 3DS and X and Y came out, I could feel me starting to age out of it. The games just weren't that difficult to me. The third dimension battles were cool for sure, but like it didn't carry the gameplay. They also gave you one of the new starters and one of the OG starters and included some like Mega Evolution Digivolve BS and a bunch of stuff like that, which while cool in concept just made the game even easier. And the easier it got, the less interested I was. I played through Omega Ruby and I obviously loved the trip down memory lane, but it also didn't hit the same. And by the time I got to the Switch titles, I really was expecting that big jump to the next generation. So you can imagine the disappointment I felt when I got my hands on Sword and Shield. It was very similar, graphically underwhelming, and overall not it. But they announced, oh shit, I forgot the name, 1 second. Pokemon Legends Arceus. And this was the one, y'all. Get ready. This was the one you've been waiting for. You got fully 3D environments. You got camera control. You're out in the wild, hunting down these animals so you can pit them against each other in fighting rings for money. Even if you barely battled anyone the whole game, what kind of horse shit is this? But for real, I played the whole game and I beat it, and
I mean, it's alright, like overrated as fuck in my opinion. I mean,
It was really fun sneaking up on different Pokemon and doing my best Randy Johnson impression as I beamed the life out of them with a Pokeball. But beyond that, it felt like a GameCube game. And I feel like I kept trying to give it a pass because it was Pokemon, you know? I have Brilliant Diamond, but honestly, every time I boot it up, I get bored and go play Dead Cells, aka the best game to play on the Switch. And I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. Man, I need to make a Dead Cells video. When Scarlet and Violet dropped, I'll be honest, I didn't have much interest to begin with. But then the technical issues started their nonsense, and to this day, the game is $60 because Nintendo refuses to let their game's price age with it. So I skipped it. But it was really just the nail in the coffin for where I was with Pokemon as a whole. I aged out of it. It would be easy to say that Pokemon should have grown with me and matured, and I'm not saying we needed to go do something radical like give Pikachu a gun and make him start cursing. We saw how that worked out for the Sonic franchise.
This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
I'm just saying that the games honestly felt as if they were only getting more watered down and easier. But then I see that Scarlet and Violet have comparable sales figures to like Gold and Silver from the 90s, and I realized that series just isn't meant for me anymore. Pokemon is baby's first RPG, and that's actually a good thing. It's not meant to be Monster Hunter, even though you hunt monsters, and it's not meant to be Final Fantasy. It is Pokemon. The new games are objectively easier, as GameFreak has included newer quality of life improvements, but if they're giving younger gamers the same feeling I got sitting under a desk lamp for hours trying to see my GBA screen so I could spam double kick until I took over all of Hoenn, that's what's really important. So what would I like to see in the series personally? Probably the addition of difficulty levels and a new game plus mechanic, but like done well. Instead of just adding in a bunch of health to make enemies spongier, let's improve enemy AI to help them battle better, tone down the XP sharing, and make it hard to mega evolve or whatever they want to call it. The foundation of Pokemon has plenty of nuance, so that if they want to make a deep system, I think it's very possible. New Game Plus could be something like where you start with all of your Pokemon, but the enemies you face are fully evolved and high leveled, or you could have to start with all your Pokemon at level 5, and could have the fun of having to build back your legendary that you usually get at a decent power level. Just things to make it feel like the game isn't holding your hand from start to finish. Honestly, if they could remake Gen 1 through 3 in a detailed 3D environment and put it all into one game, I would pay any amount of money. But we are talking like Resident Evil 4 level of remake. If they want to keep it 2D and pixelated, that's fine, but a really clean and standout art style. Or if you want to go into the third dimension, they really need to commit and make it feel like it's a game that wouldn't be the same if it wasn't. Fan-made trailers are cool, but I don't really foresee Nintendo putting out some monster of a game with 4K 120 FPS and ray tracing with realistic environments. Hell, Nintendo's current hardware wouldn't allow for that if they could. But I have seen what Nintendo has done with Link's Awakening and the direction for the Super Mario RPG remake. And I think they might be able to adapt a similar art style and concept to Pokemon, which I suppose you could point to the Diamond and Pearl games on Switch, which I mean, yeah, similar, but better. But I think we can all agree that the current style and content available in the newer games make them seem a bit outdated, even when compared to other Switch titles like Tears of the Kingdom or Super Mario Odyssey. But I mean, the games are still selling. People are still buying and enjoying them, so I don't really see any changes coming in the future. So I think it's time to come to a final realization that Pokemon games are something I will be leaving behind. But I can't wait till one day see my future kids get excited and go nuts over their first title when they finally get their hands on it. And I can be the old dude who says, you know, back in my day, there was no such thing as XP share. You had to level them up individually. And they can be like, shut up, old man, and then start doing whatever kids do.
I love the young people.
So it's bittersweet because I'm glad that people are still getting a ton of enjoyment out of the series. I just wish I was still one of them, but at least we'll always have Surfing Pikachu. There are a lot of fan-made games out there, like a lot, so if you guys are interested in me covering any of those or you have a favorite, please let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, chances are you might like our other videos, so check them out if you have a few. Thanks. And if you didn't like this video, well, I don't know why you stayed this long, but thank you to you too. And as always, stay authentic.